Jungle.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To all participants, let's start our webinar session by reciting Ummul Kitab Al-Fatihah. Assalamualaikum and welcome again, and very good day everyone. Alhamdulillah, all praises to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for granting us with the opportunity to be part of the webinar session today. I'm Dr. Yunita, your chairperson for this webinar. Welcome everyone to this webinar session on governance and accounting. For your information, this webinar is organized by Fakulti of Accountancy, UiTM Terengganu branch, and participation is open to UiTM lecturers and students as well as to other national and international universities. Please do subscribe to the UiTM YouTube channel Studio UiTM Terengganu. Before we proceed any further, on behalf of the organizing committee, I am sorry to inform you that one of our speakers, Associate Professor Dr. Ghafran, is unable to join us today. Dr. Ghafran sent a message yesterday. He informed that he had a family bereavement and had to travel back to his hometown. He apologized for not being able to join us online today. So deepest condolence to Dr. Ghafran and his family. Due to that, the organizing committee resort to Plan B, and Alhamdulillah, we would like to inform you that we will still proceed with our webinar by inviting two respectable speakers. It is great honor to introduce them to you. There are Associate Professor Dr. Hajjah Zuraida binti Ibrahim and Associate Professor Dr. Akmalia Muhammad Arif. Let me start by introducing our first speaker. Associate Professor Dr. Hajjah Zuraida binti Ibrahim is currently the Director of the Students Leadership Institute, UiTM, and Head of the ACU ITM Center of Taxologists, or ACT, Faculty of Accountancy, UiTM. ACT is one-stop center for tax-related research and publication activities established to enhance educational programs in taxation for undergraduate and graduate levels across Malaysia, as well as the public via significant connections with both the professional and the academic tax communities. Dr. Zuraida was elected as the Vice President of the MIA effective from 19th of September 2019 and was appointed as a council member of the MATA, Malaysian Association of Tax Accountants, in May 2018. She is actively involved in research, innovation and consultation works. She is a Chartered Accountant, Malaysia, and Certified Practicing Accountant, CPA Australia. She obtained her PhD in Accounting and Finance from University of Strathclyde, United Kingdom, Master in Accounting with distinction from Curtin University of Technology, Australia, and Bachelor of Accountancy with Honours from University Utara, Malaysia. Previously, Dr. Zuraida has conducted two research projects with Bank Negara Malaysia or Central Bank of Malaysia, and was involved in developing an accounting software named Creative Accounting Detection Systems, a project funded by the Ministry of Education. She was appointed as a consultant by the Enforcement and Inspectorate Division, Private Higher Education Malaysia, PPTS, Department of Higher Education, Ministry of Education Malaysia, and by the Commissioner of Buildings and of several municipal councils. She has also served as a trainer for various training programs organized by the government agencies such as Central Bank of Malaysia, Ministry of Health and Selangor State Treasury, to name a few. Her research interests include taxation, governance, Islamic perspective of accounting, accounting information system, accounting education, and Islamic finance and microfinance. Since 1997, she has taught various subjects, namely Malaysia taxation, advanced Malaysian taxation, tax fraud and investigation, contemporary issues in taxation, Islamic accounting and reporting, computerized accounting, accounting information system, accounting system analysis and design, management accounting, costing, and financial accounting for non-accounting students. Yeah. Okay. Actually, if I were to read the full biography of Dr. Zuraida, that will be a lengthy one. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to the second presenter or speaker, which I will introduce also before we start the session. Our speaker for the second one is Associate Professor Dr. Akmalia Muhammad Arif. Associate Professor Dr. Akmalia is currently the head of Internal Audit Department of University Malaysia Terengganu, UMT, and serves as TAF Organising Committee and Associate Consultant for UMT Solihin. Dr. Akmalia has appointed as a technical researcher for Malaysian Accounting Standard Board, a technical committee for UMT specifically for interim audit of financial statement and pelaksanaan perakaunan accruan. She also had an experience as committee member for Kajian Hala 7 Perakaunan 3 Subbidang Perakaunan Keuangan Kementerian Pengajian Tinggi Malaysia. Dr. Akmalia obtained her PhD in Accounting from University of Auckland, New Zealand, Master in Accounting from UiTM Shah Alam, Malaysia, and Bachelor of Accountancy Honours from University Utara Malaysia. To date, Dr. Akmalia has published 23 journal articles, 3 books and 3 chapters in book. She is actively involved in research grants projects, as project leader in 3 of the projects and as member in another 10 projects. Yeah? So that's briefly the biography of our second speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Akmalia. Right, before we begin, let me just highlight simple house rules for this webinar. First one, each of the speaker is given about 30 to 45 minutes to present or share their thoughts on the subject matters. Number 2, the question and answer session will be allocated at the end of the session after both of our speakers are done with their presentation. And number 3, for the participants who wish to ask questions, please post in the chat box. Yeah? Again, I wish to welcome everyone to this webinar, and please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Right, for the participant who just joined us, please be informed that our intended first speaker, which was Associate Professor Dr. Ghafran, is unable to join us today because he had a family bereavement and he had to travel back to his hometown. Alright, so without further ado, please welcome our first speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Zuraida, with her talk on the topic Current Issues and Current Development on Corporate Governance. Please welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yunita. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to all. Alhamdulillah bil alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amma ba'd. Of course, the first thing first, thank you very much to the organizing committee of Fakulti of Accountancy, UiTM Dungun campus, yang berusaha, Associate Professor Dr. Akmalia, Muhammad Arif, my partner for today, So, okay, and of course, our respected audience, guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, before I proceed with my presentation, or more or less, I can say it's more like a sharing session here. I'm not the expert, but it's more like, okay, we take this opportunity to share whatever that we have, yeah, the knowledge that I have with the audience today. So, of course, first of all, thank you very much to the organizing committee and UiTM Terengganu branch for this opportunity. As for me, it's always nice, yeah, nice to have this great opportunity to contribute something, yeah, for the place where I first started my journey as a lecturer. Okay, UiTM Dungun di Hatiku. Okay, so the topic that has they assigned to me is more on the current issues and development. Okay, on corporate governance. Okay, as I mentioned just now, I'm not the expert, but I have few guru, yeah, that assisted me in terms of corporate governance. Let me start to tell you that when we talk about corporate governance, normally in UiTM we have Professor Rashidah, yeah. So and then of course from her and then from my students, yeah, my PhD students now, Dr. Rizwana, Dr. Inshallah, Dr. Azlan, they are looking into governance lah, yeah, corporate governance, governance in uh, not just public sector. You also include the what I call public sector too. Okay, looking into that. Okay, let me now share my slide. Okay, let me start with the definition of this corporate governance. Okay, orang kata warm up, ya. Warm up at least a few simple points there on corporate governance. You know what is corporate? Yeah, what is governance and what is corporate governance? So basically, corporate as defined by Collins Dictionary, like you can just Google, you can see that, yeah, it actually refers to the business corporations or to a particular business corporation. So normally, when I refer to Kuma 2010, I mentioned that when you talk about corporate, yeah, it's a form of firms, and you can see the separation between ownership and control. So you know that when you mention about corporate, okay, you have someone, the owners, yeah, actually the ownership is with the shareholders of the firm, and the control is actually maintained by the firm management. So basically there are three, yeah, characteristics of any corporation. The first one, the legal entity, profit maximization, separation of ownership and control. Okay, so when you talk about governance, okay, governance is defined as a system by which companies are directed and controlled and accountability is assured. You can see this from the CPA Australia textbook, yeah, on governance, ethics and governance. They define that, yeah, we talk about governance. Institute of Governance Canada, they mentioned governance is actually how societies or groups within it organize to make decisions. So basically, we're talking about those at the top, yeah, the management, the executive, the non-executive directors, and so on. So the decision made is actually important for the organization, yeah. So it is referring again when you talk about governance to the way the board of directors execute their roles towards investors and their shareholders. Okay, so of course it's not easy. They have to set the organization objectives and the direction of the company. Okay, if let's say we talk about UiTM, we have this strategic, yeah, planning for 2025, where we have the direction to be globally renowned university. So of course, it is a combination of the board of directors and also the top management, and we, the lecturers, normally will just execute whatever that has been set by the people at the top. Okay, so normally the management, okay, would then take the roles in ensuring the daily basis business operations, okay, and it must be in line with the objectives and direction set. Okay, so if you talk about business entities, of course, they go for profit maximization. When you talk about profit maximization, they have to find ways on how to do your daily activities and so on, so that they can achieve that. Okay, so what about corporate governance then? Okay, when you talk about corporate governance, there you can see here, you have rules, practice, processes, and so on, right? So it's a set of processes, customs, policies, laws, and institutions which determine how the enterprise is directed administered, and controlled, including the relationship between the distinct parties involved and the aims for which a society is governed. The aim of corporate governance is to create added value to stakeholders. So they have to think of their not just their shareholders, but of course the stakeholders as a whole. So how they can then add value, yeah, to everybody that actually contribute to the organization. So basically, when you mention about research on corporate governance, you have that back in the 1970s, yeah, and then more. Okay, we have in the late 1990s when you have Enron, World.com, yeah, you have all this collapse of corporate institution and so on, yeah. So, but the best thing is recently when you talk about governance, people are talking about agile governance. People are talking about this IT governance, yeah, and human governance. Okay, when we talk about human governance, of course, yeah, we have our professor from UPM talking about this, yeah, late Prof. Lupa pula dah sekarang, ya. So, but you have that, ya. So, IT governance, defined by the IT Governance Institute as a subset of corporate governance, a discipline focused on information and communication technologies and their performance systems and risk management. I believe that this IT governance now is important when you talk about blockchain. Later I'll discuss about that, yeah. And when you mention about agile governance, okay, Kruchten 2011 mentioned that this refers to the ability of the organization to react to changes in its environment, yeah, faster than the rate of these changes. Means that, okay, if you refer to the current situation when you have pandemic, yeah, COVID 2019 pandemic, yeah. So you have so many changes there, the environments, everything totally different. So how actually the concept of governance can tackle these issues, okay? So here, I would like to share with you the corporate scandals from year 2015 to 2020. I just put the 5 years back, okay? You can see there it's more, yeah, when you mention about Malaysian corporation, okay, you have about 10 in Malaysia. That is the one that I managed to Google lah, yeah, with the help of my research assistant Hidayah. So with that, for Malaysia is about 10 companies. When you mentioned about worldwide, we have about 33 cases. Okay, 33 cases. Of course, when you mention about corporate scandals, doesn't mean that this touch on the mismanagement or corruption, manipulation, power, abuse of power, and so on. This could be also other scandals lah. Yeah. So, but you can see that you have so many. Yeah, we talk about 33, 2016, that 2019, 2017. I have more here. Yeah, for 2015, 2018, and 2020. So, what happened actually? Yeah, when you refer to year 2020, you have more there. Yeah, what's wrong with our societies? What's wrong with the people up there, okay? So it could be when you mention about corporate scandals listed here, as I mentioned just now, it could be creative accounting, it could be corruption, abuse of power, mismanagement, and so on. Yeah. So it's good that if you can just dig into all these individual companies and we can see which one is actually refers to the governance issues. Okay. So based on CPA Australia Ethics and Governance page 244, they stated that common failure factors, when you mention about these corporate scandals, they refers to poor strategic decisions. That's why when you mention about any organization, when you talk about strategic planning, they really put their effort to ensure that the strategic planning should be a good one, that could be doable and could achieve, they can achieve that, because poor strategic decisions then could lead to the collapse of the corporate and so on. And of course, the second one is greed and the desire for power. Okay, not everybody actually, when they are in power, they will do the best for the organization. Maybe they will do for that certain period, for the next few years, maybe for their personal benefit. That's why when you mention about governance, you have to look into the stakeholders. You also have to look into the public interest theory, okay, to avoid that we can see you are doing things just for yourself, not for the organization, for the companies, and so on. So these corporate failure factors actually, these are the things that actually lead to the corporate failure factors. And then we're talking about over-expansion and ill-judged acquisitions. This is again, we can witness this here in certain, back in year 1990s, yeah, end of year 1990s too. You can see people start to actually restructuring their business, because sometimes they thought that over expansion is good, but it's actually over expansion can actually lead to the failure, yeah, business failure and so on. You can also have issues of dominant CEOs. Okay, if dominant CEOs is a good one, then okay, it's good for the organization. What about dominant CEOs being influenced by someone else? Is not for the benefit of that organization, that could actually lead to the failure factors. And of course, this is the interesting part. Because I'm teaching ARS for so many years, we're talking about internal controls. Yes, failure of internal controls can actually, yeah, contribute to this, the failure or the collapse of the organization. And finally, yeah, you can see about ineffective boards. Yeah, boards, you have board members, yeah, organization, the shareholders, the stakeholders, they have to make sure that those people, yeah, stay or occupy that chairs, supposed to be someone that really deserve that firm roles and so on. Okay, so based on Faisal Malik, okay, this is our my friends lah from the industry. Okay, so from his perspective, okay, you can refer to his link, the link there. Okay, Faisal Malik, he mentioned that from his perspective, okay, normally when you talk about the key challenges, we are talking about the understanding, lack of understanding between CEO, board members, and shareholders. Okay, this thing happened. Okay, maybe because the CEO, he is the one in the, the everyday, the daily you can see business operation every day, yeah, day-to-day activities is actually, yeah, being monitored indirectly by the CEO, whereas the board members, maybe they are just there for once a month or 2 months, yeah, once and so on. The shareholders, again, maybe the shareholders, they are there just to, invest and hoping that they will get the profit, dividend, and so on. So these are the key actually challenges, yeah, to them, to those when you talk about good governance. Yeah, you need that, yeah, understanding, a good understanding between the CEO, board members, and shareholders. And then the second one, it could be, yeah, also you talk about unclear long-term objective of the major stakeholders. So what is the long-term objective? You cannot say about just for 1 or 2 years or 3 years, 5 years, to talk about 10 years. When you mention about business, yeah, that's why we talk about pioneer, masuk tax pula, yeah, pioneer status, they have 5 years, yeah, because we believe that within the 5 years, then only you can see the progress, yeah, of the planning and so on. And then sometimes the next key challenges, the next one is strategic vision and also implementation gap. Yes, you have so nice there, strategic planning, but what about the execution? Yeah, whether you can really do that, whether you can really achieve that, is it doable? Okay, sometimes very nice to put, yeah, on the shelf, on this billboard about your vision, but is it, yeah, you can execute that, yeah, that objective and so on. Sometimes, yeah, like myself also, I'm so orang kata apa, excited. We want to think out of the box. We want to expand our comfortable zone, yeah, comfortable zone. But it's actually, is it okay as with the current situation? And then the next part is wrong person in key position. Okay, so that is also the issue with the challenge that face certain organization. And the next one is on trust issues. Okay, trust issues is another thing. Okay, when you mention about CEO, you mention about board members, you mention about shareholders. Okay, we believe that the shareholders, they trust the CEO and the board members. Okay, whether then these people really can, yeah, when you are trusted, you can really deliver. Okay, that is these are the key challenges stated by Faisal Malik. Yeah. Okay, so you know that um, when you mentioned about COVID-19, as I mentioned just now, yeah, COVID-19 pandemic, okay, has changed our lifestyle, I can say. Yeah, it's not just in Malaysia, it's around the world. So this pandemic actually lead to other issues, such as shutdown of physical workplaces, higher dependence on technology, accelerated growth of the digital economy, and mushrooming of public spending directed towards digital businesses. So what is more interesting is that now digital platform allow businesses to perform activities beyond boundaries. We have this, okay? So this is interesting because now you can buy some things from overseas. If like myself also, I did join a program offered by someone in the US. So this is the interesting part, But you also need to know that, okay, when you have this digital economy, okay, you have blockchain, online transactions, so we have an issue of cyber security. Okay, now whether those, when you mentioned about corporate governance just now, those, the CEO, when you mentioned about the shareholders, when you mentioned about the management, these people, they have the capability to deal with this. Okay, when you mention about remote working area, can you really ensure that those people that you trust just now to deliver, they can really deliver so that we can achieve the objective? What about revenue stream now? When you mention about digital economy, is it good for the business? Okay, so it's actually when you have all this can also lead to corruption, could be, okay, and it could also lead to other corporate scandals if not properly managed. Okay, so here when you mention about digital economy, I can see that these two, digital economy and also COVID-19 pandemic, they actually interrelated. And when you mention about business continuity, okay, certain business activities you just need to stop because you spend more on the overhead maybe compared to the direct cost and so on. So again here, go back to the very popular theory lah, agency theory, kan, stakeholders theory. So you still have these issues, these are part of the current emerging issues lah, I can say. Okay, digital economy and so on. So now, when you mentioned about this, when I mentioned about good governance, corporate governance just now, okay, so you still have corporate scandals, okay, even with the traditional transactions where you can see documents, you can see all the supporting documents, people can still manipulate. So now, everything is online. How you then rely on all these documents actually, when you mention about cloud computing and so on, kan? Why? And like myself, I don't think I'm that expert, so I need to be trained maybe, So here, we need a good governance, okay? Benefits of good governance here, okay? So you mentioned, when I mentioned about these emerging issues just now, okay, there is concern on how actually those people at the top could manage their business operation, organize their people and resources, so that both objectives of internal and external shareholders of their organization could be achieved. What should the board members do to ensure the purpose of them to be there could be fulfilled? Okay, when you appoint someone as the board members, you appoint someone as the CEO, executive directors, and so on. With the current issues, are these people really fit? That seat. That is the thing. So you have to look into the soft part of it. We need to have a good corporate governance. Why we need to have this? Okay, what is good corporate governance? Okay, I believe that most of you are familiar with this. Okay, so good corporate governance is an essential means to create an environment of market confidence, business integrity, and of course this one, they could support the development and corporate access to equity capital for long-term productive investment. Okay, so the benefits, of course, you can see here. If you have good corporate governance, yes, even though we have all the challenges here and there, hiccups here and there, especially during this pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, but if you have a very proper, good corporate governance, at least you can reduce agency costs, reduce cost of capital, increase value of the company, and also creating support from stakeholders. Okay, so here, trust, as I mentioned just now. Here earlier, when I mentioned about trust, okay, that's part of the challenges, kan? One of the challenges we talk about trust. So here you need to build, okay, the effective relationship here between those three lah, at least, yeah, the CEO, the board members, and also the CEO and the top management, board members, and also the shareholders. Yeah, we need that effective relationship. Okay, to build the trust and earning respect. It's not easy when you mention about trust. You might still have, unless you have a very good team there. Okay, but it's not easy. So here, the first one, tone at the top. This is everywhere. Even when I taught this AIS paper, we mentioned about internal control. Of course, the tone at the top is important. Okay, the culture, the people at the top. Okay, the CEO, the board of directors. Okay, and also the stakeholders. Of course, when we talk about shareholders, they just park their money, invest, and so on. Simply say lah, yeah, basically lah. But then the board of directors, the CEO, the top management, they must have a clear purpose and they must stay focused. What is the objective of that? Yeah, the ultimate objective of that organization, of that company. Okay, they must be clear on this and they must focus on that. Okay, so they cannot simply say that as for this 5 years, okay, 5 years, okay, like 10 years and so on, but you have to think about the business sustainability. We're talking about sustainability. It's not just about doing business for 5 years. You're not talking about doing business for 10 years. Okay, it's forever, right? When you mentioned about one of the BAP, kan, yeah, business continuity and so on. So they must clear, it must have that. What are the purposes, and also they must focus on that. And then it also must be stated there too, yang normally we have terms of reference. What are the responsibilities, the roles of these people? We talk about roles and responsibilities lah, ya, between governance and management. Board of directors, what is actually your roles and responsibilities? The management, what are your roles and responsibilities? Okay, you cannot cross that, yeah, unless, yeah, this is why you mentioned about trust. Okay, you know your role supposed to be just to monitor certain things and so on. So don't take over someone else's job. Okay, so this is important. Okay, you should know your roles and responsibilities, and you should respect those people roles and responsibilities. Don't ever cross the authority lah. You must clear on that. And then, of course, they must have this continuous constructive engagement with stakeholders. Okay, they must listen to those people, not just the shareholders, but also everybody. Okay, it is a must. When you mention about organization, the openness, okay, you must ask your employees, what are the problems when you mention about pandemic 2000 COVID-19. So yes, your objective is to maximize it. Maybe you talk about profit, but now you're talking about your employees, whether they can really work together with you to achieve this. So listen to them. Okay, listen to them. It must be constructive engagement lah. The stakeholders. You cannot say that you just want to condemn the management. They must have reasons. You cannot just condemn the board of directors. They must have reason because they have different perspective. They are there for different purpose. Okay, but of course, the purpose should be together lah, yeah, for the business. And then of course, when you mention about board members, okay, this is important. They must be truly independent and also diverse board members. Okay, this is important. Okay, independent and diverse board members, because of what? If you have diversity, this is good. Everybody could have a different perspective. They can give the input from different angles. So this is good for the organization. Okay, so next is about right people. Okay, when you mention about right people, should they be, when you mention you appoint someone, in this board of directors, board members, you appoint someone as the CEO, you appoint someone as the executive directors, the management, and so on. Even the executive, those at the you can see the operational, all those management level. Okay, you need someone with the specific skill sets and also experience. Why? When you mention about diversified skill sets and experience, as I mentioned earlier, they can give different perspectives. Okay, sometimes when you mention about even like myself, I can only see this direction. But when you have someone else inform that you should look into this, it could bring benefits to certain people, certain group of people and so on. So sometimes and it's actually when you have someone with different skill sets, you have someone with different experience, they can give different perspectives, and not to surprise you, actually they can also give more ideas on how to move your organization. Okay, and this could contribute to the strong company performance. Okay, and of course, like nowadays we're talking about 30% ladies here on board. I think because ladies, okay, bias lah because we are maybe the ladies very kata details they are not like myself lah kan, there's no personal agenda. Okay, so you have to find someone a different we talk about various like gender, ethnicity, and also age. I believe that those the young ones, especially when you talk about this pandemic, COVID-19, the young ones actually can give you great ideas on how to do business in this online business and so on. They know how to deal with the technical items, they know how to deal with the computer, all these gadgets and so on. Give to the young ones, they know how to deal with that. So those not so young, okay, maybe you can think of the content and so on of the business. Okay, we talk about the products. Okay, even when you talk about nasi lemak ke, you talk about nowadays Food Panda, Grab and so on. The idea could be from the not so young, but how to execute, maybe you have the so young, the young ones to give you ideas to get for marketing. They are better, they are good. You just have to acknowledge their expertise. Okay, so that is important when you mention about good corporate governance. You must have the right people, at a certain places or certain levels. Okay, so other components of good corporate governance, of course, I don't want to touch this: external auditor, internal auditor, audit committee, of course, and the next one, risk management. You really need to look into this when you mention about internal control. Work hand in hand with this risk management. Okay, integrity of financial reporting. This is important because when you mentioned about decision making earlier, when I mentioned about decision making, those at the top, those who actually work, they have to decide. So of course they look into this financial report. So the integrity of financial reporting is important. Even at UiTM, I just want to share with you, we have this corporate organizational values, that is excellence, synergy, and integrity. So the integrity is important because of what? If reported is true, the value, the figures is reliable, valid, then we can make a good decision then, proper, excellent decision, for the organization. And then it must also have incentive structures aligned with long-term objectives. Next, we move on to the values. Okay, so when you mention about people, you talk about business governance and so on, you cannot ignore all these values. This is very important. Okay. Okay, so the first one, when we have about this corporate governance values, you know what is transparency, accountability, responsibility, independence, fairness, integrity, excellence. I include excellence there because this is one of UiTM per organization value, our values like ESI too, so put excellence there. Everybody, you must have that. Okay, transparency, yes, it must be. We are accountants. When we talk about Faculty of Accountancy, and when you are again at this level management and so on, you must have this transparency. You're transparent lah. Talk about the figures, whatever decision made. Okay, it must be transparent. It's good if you can share with everybody. From the top management to the operational people and so on. And then when you make decision, of course you have to be accountable. Then so we have accountability there. Okay, accountable and take the responsibility. Okay, whether to execute, or whether if anything happen, you take that, you are responsible for that, independence, fairness. I think I don't have to discuss about this. My students, Aslan, is looking into this because we believe that everybody, they have that, but nowadays maybe because of the situation, the back to dulu during my time we have only per fraud triangle. Now you can have more, not just triangle, you can have quadruple and whatnot. Why? Because there are so many reasons for people not to really, or maybe there are reasons for them to manipulate. If previously we talk about pressure, we talk about opportunities. So here I believe, and we believe that everybody, they actually have all this quality. It's just that the situation on how we could actually overcome this. So this is not just about individual effort, it should be a team effort. So these are the things that I want to share with you just now. All the pandemic COVID-19, you have blockchain, you have digital economy transactions and so on. So, and for this corporate governance, when we talk about governance, we have all these latest developments to overcome all those issues. Okay, you have blockchain and internal control, the COSO perspective. Okay, this one I got this from the Deloitte. Okay, they have this in July 2020. So I believe they're really fast. Please read on this COSO per blockchain and internal control. So this blockchain and internal control actually they touch on actually when you mention about digital economy, you mention about blockchain. Okay, it has impact on the governance. Indirectly or directly, they have the impact on the governance. Okay, blockchain is not just about digital assets. Okay, so the people, okay, in this everybody we talk about not just private sector and the corporate people. Everybody actually, you should learn on how it actually works. Okay, maybe you need skill sets. Okay, maybe you need more trainings to these people, because again, when you mention about digital economy, you mentioned about blockchain, what kind of internal control now is more relevant? Okay, so previously maybe we are just looking into authorization, we talk about those firewalls, you talk about the encryption, you mentioned about whatever internal control through the AIS too. But when you talk about blockchain, when you mention about transactions beyond boundaries and so on, so they have actually come out with all this internal control that can reduce certain risks related to the blockchain activities. And also I can see that it's not just about blockchain, they also you can also refer to these guidelines to actually overcome issues that caused by this digital economy, digital transactions and so on. Okay, so you have to look the risk attached to it. So when I read this blockchain and internal control perspective, in the COSO perspective, I can see actually this could apply to those business that, if currently you just mentioned about physical activities, you have all the documents and so on. Now when you move towards digital transactions, actually these guidelines actually, blockchain and internal control, the COSO perspective can actually be referred to overcome the same issues. Okay, and then the next one is section 17A. When I mentioned earlier, when I listed all those issues, okay, governance issues and so on, so they have this in year 2018, section 17A sub 1 of the MECC Amendment Act 2018. So this one, they address corporate liability for corruption, where directors and senior management will be held personally liable for acts of corruption committed by the organization, either by personnel or parties acting on behalf of the organization. So when I look into this, the penalties is about 1 million, okay, and prison sentence up to 20 years. This is serious. I believe that Okay, with this section 17, if they really enforce, the enforcement unit really do into this, looking in, this as a serious matters, majority or many mismanagement, the abuse of powers could be actually mitigated. You can combat that. And then next, when you mention about COSO 2013 framework, I'm looking into it and I apply to whatever that have been before this like AIS paper and so on. Thus, I can see this is quite important actually. When you mentioned about issues, you refer to the same thing. Okay, the control activities. You talk about control environment. You talk about the risk management, information communication, and so on. Still applicable. It's just that you have to uh, modify here and there so that you can really overcome whatever issues appear previously. Okay, so these are the COSO 2013 framework. Okay, they apply to the today's business environment. Okay, so they touch on the effectiveness of system of internal control, expense reporting objectives, to support financial and non-financial reporting, and operational and compliance objective. So this one, they focus on accountability for internal control throughout the organization, starting from the board level and senior management. Okay, so these are the sources of Malaysian corporate governance. Can have more actually, but this is part of the things that you can refer to. Okay, thank you Encik Faizal for all this information. So normally they will look into all this when you talk about corporate governance. My real experience, as I mentioned just now, okay, there are issues, but again, with a good there's trust, a good relationship between the CEO, the management, and also the shareholders. I believe that all the issues can be at least reduced. Issues you can overcome that, inshallah. And then yes, look into for me, if you look into the internal control, really look into whatever being proposed by the COSO, COSO, you can see if the people at the top, they abuse the power, they mismanage and so on, that could actually bring more harms to the organization. Okay, this is not my real nilah from my study and so on you can see that that is the issue. So as I mentioned just now, that's all from me. More on sharing session. Thank you, UiTM Terengganu, Fakulti of Accountancy, my department IKP, Dr. Taufan, sama-sama with me on this textbook, but up to date, even for today, we still could not publish the book. Encik Faizal, our alumni, also founder of Faizal Malik and Co. Mr. Leong Kahmun, okay, founder of Talent Workroom. He's the one that informed me on you should look into section 17A. Dia kata these are the things that is important nowadays when you mention about corporate governance. If you want to be at the top, you have to know all this, because sometimes nothing to do with you, but people can still bring you to the court if you are subject to certain manipulation and so on. Of course, my guru, Dr. Rashida, when we talk about governance, she's the one that I referred to previously, and Dr. Rosani Hanifa, and my students, Dr. Rizwana, Chazlan, I punya co-supervisor on this governance, Dr. Halim, and also my kesayangan beloved sisters and brothers of AC UiTM Center of Toxicologists. I think that's all, Dr. Yunita, from me. Thank you very much. With that, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alright, Waalaikumsalam. Thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Zuraida, for the interesting sharing on the issue, and also shared with us with the latest development on corporate governance. Right, I'm sure that our participants do have questions to Associate Professor Dr. Zuraida, but please be patient as the Q&A session
Assalamualaikum. Has Dr. Yunita called for my session? Because I cannot hear you just now. Okay, alright. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Kamalia, but I can't hear Dr. Yunita.
Sorry, ada tak dengar sekejap tadi. So thank you Dr. Yunita for the welcoming speech, and I would like to thank Fakulti of Accountancy, Terengganu, for this opportunity to share my thoughts during this webinar. I commend the faculty's effort to hold this session, as I believe that this kind of session would add value to the participants. Okay, I will now share my slide. Okay. Is that clear? Okay, can you see my slide?
Yes, Dr. Kamalia.
Right, so I will start my presentation, but prior to doing that, I would like to make two important points. So firstly, I would like to thank Dr. Zuraida, who has made my presentation much easier because she has already provided a very clear and comprehensive view of corporate governance. Okay, and second point, being bidang terjun into this seminar, I honestly prepared today's presentation in very short time. So I think less than 2 hours. Therefore, if I am short of anyone's expectation, I would like to apologize in advance lah, right? So the title of my presentation today is Corporate Governance Beyond Characteristics of the Board Members, which I believe complement what Dr. Zuraidah have presented earlier, especially on the fact that there are many corporate governance mechanisms, but corporate scandals still happen. So what is the gap? And as I understand, the participant today would come from UiTM lecturers and other lecturers as well. So as part of our role as a researcher, it is important for us to investigate what would be the gap so that we can provide suggestion for policy improvement and formulation. So basically that is what my intention or the purpose of my presentation today. I will look at before we go to that. So this is the outline of my presentation. So first of all, I will provide an overview of corporate governance in practice by referring to the Code of Corporate Governance, MCCG 2017, and then talk about issues which I think I have identified through readings and through research on corporate governance, which I did with my colleagues. And I will end it up with conclusion on some suggestions for future research. So even though it will not be that comprehensive, but at least I aim to provide some ideas on how to go about with future research on corporate governance. So first of all, I think everyone knows about this, but just a brief overview of MCCG 2017, which is an updated one, a revised one from the earlier or the previous version in 2012. So corporate governance in Malaysia has come across a few development in line with the international development as well. And in 2007, the MCCG 2017 is revised to promote greater internalization of corporate governance culture. So the content or the new approach introduced in MCCG 2017 is identified as the following. So one of those is the comprehend, apply and report approach, and the shift from comply or explain to apply or explain alternative, greater focus and clarity on intended outcomes for each practice, guidance to assist companies in applying the practices, and identify exemplary practices which support companies in moving towards greater excellence, or what is called as step ups, right? So this is a summary of content of MCCG 2017, by which if we compare this or what the content of MCCG 2017 as compared to the MCCG 2012, some of the key changes include the promotion of greater internalization of corporate governance culture, okay, as compared to strengthening board structure and composition. That was the purpose of the previous Code of Corporate Governance. In terms of independent directors tenure, the limit of 9 years, but can be more than 12 years, up to shareholders' approval via two-tier voting. And in terms of remuneration policies, in MCCG 2012, it has been stated there, but basically just merely stating to have a transparent remuneration policies, but 2007 version requires a full disclosure of the detailed remuneration of each member. And in terms of risk management, again, in the previous version of MCCG, it is quite general by establishing a sound framework to manage risk. But then the current version of MCCG identify or really state that there is a need to establish risk management committee. And in terms of audit committee, the new version requires that the audit committee should comprise solely of independent members. So those are some of the key highlights, but there are more to that. I'm just summarizing some of those, right? So how many years have passed? 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, right? So one of the finding, the Security Commission also monitor the corporate governance performance of public listed companies in Malaysia, right? And as well as some of those companies, right? So this is, they do this every year. So this is the 2021 Corporate Governance Monitor 2020, which summarizes corporate governance practices in 2019. Okay, so they have this particular report that you can find, and I like diagrams. So this diagram summarizes what are the key highlights. Okay, so they separated, some of those include the number of gender diversity on board. So as Dr. Zuraida mentioned before, on how gender diversity would add value to the board, and on how young women, okay, percentage of women on board, we should be 30%. There are still some of those which are less than 30%, but now the numbers are increasing. And she is also right about having more young women on board. The trend of appointing young women on board has also increased, as shown by this report, right? So these are the nationality of the directors, quite well diversified, with some from Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, China, and others, right? And best practice has improved. Okay, so it is also quite interesting to see there are virtual general meetings, because during this period, as we know, it is when countries face the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so which has changed the normal course of life as well as the way business operate, right? So there are a numbers of virtual meeting, and finding shows that 74% of shareholders would like to continue having the option to participate online. So which is a good news, okay, because it now shows that yes, it's not impossible to do meetings online. So before this, many of us probably are reluctant. We want to see people face to face. So virtual meeting, okay, obviously we'll get more shareholders to come on board to participate and to give ideas during the general meeting, right? And then some of those features on board remuneration, right? So total remuneration received by executive directors was shown to decrease, but by non-executive directors was shown to increase, but total remuneration decreased as well. So it is a huge issue as well, because typically when we come across companies with corporate scandals, and then there will be news about how much the directors receive, and it does not compensate between the number of remuneration received by the board of directors, but corporate scandals still happen. Okay, so those are one of the things, or some of the things that were commented or were made viral lah in case of corporate scandals. Okay, so in summary, so this is some of the findings from Corporate Governance Monitor 2020 by SC. So there is a positive levels of adoption observed across a majority of best practices. So the top 3 is practice 8.2, which is related to the fact that for there's a cooling period for appointment of key audit partner to become audit committee members. So they need to wait, I think, about 2 years before they can be appointed as audit committee members. And then greater transparency in relation to remuneration of senior management. Okay, gender diversity on board continues to improve. And now about 165 companies increased from 145, have 30% or more women directors on board. Companies have started to adopt the two-tier voting process, and more than 250 fully virtual GM have been conducted since 18 April 2020, and the total of board remuneration of companies in FTSE Bursa Malaysia, FBM 100, has declined by 11.7%. So this shows great development in corporate governance in Malaysia as compared to what has been proposed, against of what has been proposed in MCCG 2017. Okay, so in summary, those are my overview of the corporate governance practices in Malaysia, by which Malaysia has continued to improve corporate governance, and companies have also continued to be on board with the government agenda in improving corporate governance, right? However, I echoed back what Dr. Zuraida has mentioned before. Okay, the fact that there are still many corporate scandals. She has listed down all the companies from international data set as well, and there are quite a number of companies as well in 2020, right? So as part of our role, okay, to identify what are the gaps. So we have all these corporate governance. Okay, we have all these corporate governance mechanism proposed by the regulators. Okay, we have all these corporate governance efforts by the company. It shows that there is a movement towards better corporate governance. But why is it that there are still part or corporate scandals still happen? So even though it does not reflect that all companies are not good, all companies are bad, but once there are listed companies in Malaysia, or once there are good companies, or what do I say, highly ranked companies which are identified as being manipulative of their financial statements and so on, it does give bad effect to the nation as a whole. It does have effect on the stock market, and it does have effect on the reputation of the people as well as the companies in Malaysia. Right. So in contributing to our role as researcher in corporate governance, for example, I would say that these are my point of view on what to do, or what are lacking, and how do we go about with improving studies on corporate governance, right? So what is identified here is basically not truly comprehensive, but one of the things that I noticed, or I would envision prior studies to be more developed, is in terms of the use of corporate governance mechanism. Okay, so I would like to echo this particular finding, or this particular concept from Riediker and Seth 1995 about bundle of governance mechanism, right? So it so happened that because corporate governance data are manually collected, some of those are manually collected. So yes, we do, as researcher, we do have a limit in terms of what kind of information we can collect, right? So we cannot spend a lot of time collecting data, and we have to get on with the research. So we do have limitation in terms of data collection. However, one of the issue is when we tend to choose one or two mechanism as our proxy for corporate governance. So in the context of bundle of governance mechanism, I personally think that firm performance is dependent on the effectiveness of the bundle of mechanism rather than the effectiveness of any one mechanism. So I do have problem in understanding when some research, they have one or two mechanism and bring that as a proxy of corporate governance as a whole. Unless that study is referring to a particular regulation being in place, that is understandable. But to use one or two mechanism and to say that, for example, board size, and to say that that is corporate governance as a whole, would be one of the things that I would like to comment in current research. Okay, so the underlying assumption is that the firm will find its own efficient bundle based on a cost-benefit trade-off to achieve optimally efficient effectiveness. So that can be identified from this study by Watt, Brown and Rodriguez 2009 in Corporate Governance and International Review, which talks about the governance bundles. So in this study, they do look at a bundle of corporate governance mechanism as a whole. Okay, so the idea is to assess corporate governance effectiveness, by which referring to one or two measures might not be able to capture the corporate governance effectiveness that we try to promote or we try to suggest in our research, right? Right. So the second one is on board diversity, which is also one of the concepts that is mentioned by Dr. Zuraida earlier. And if we look at studies on board diversity, of course, one of the idea or the principles or the promoted diversity concept in the context of corporate governance is on gender diversity, of how there should be more women on board, right? However, in adding to that, I believe that policies such as gender diversity shall be expanded to include multi-dimensional aspects of board diversity that better represent the economic, legal and cultural environment of a country. Okay, so in doing so, there is, for future research, there is a proxy for board heterogeneity from Anderson et al., right? This could be a basis of point where we can go about in understanding board heterogeneity or board diversity. The idea is that rather than, okay, of course, we want more women on board. Okay, we want 30% of women on board. But should that be at the expense of their education level? Should that be at the expense of their experience? Should that be at the expense of their ethical stand, right? So just to avoid the practice of appointing women on board just for the sake that they are women. Of course, they bring together with them their expertise, their experience and their education. But in terms of research, in terms of understanding how board diversity adds to the value of a company, okay, more research should be done on the concept of board diversity rather than just looking at the concept of gender diversity on its own, right? So the suggestion is that future research should also include multi-dimensional aspects of board diversity, especially the fact that in Malaysia we do have different ethnic. So that is one of the things that would add values to board diversity concept in Malaysia. So we do have a different education background, different experiences. Okay, so those are the concept of board diversity that should be a way forward in terms of policy formulation, right? The third part is on other corporate governance mechanism. So referring back to the title of the research or the presentation earlier, beyond corporate governance mechanism, it is also often seen that by referring to one or two corporate governance mechanism, for example, the characteristics of board of directors themselves, which is good, but that should be also researched in the context of other corporate governance mechanism. Okay, for example, there are external governance or internal governance arising from ownership structure. So, for example, the role of institutional investors would be one of the area that will add or complement or supplement the corporate governance mechanism in place in the company, right? The role of market discipline. So firms do behave differently when they have different level of product market competition. Of course, uh, firms go about with improving their corporate governance, but for those with higher product market competition, the challenges are greater. Therefore, they do have some concern in terms of reaching or achieving their target, right? So in that sense, uh, there is a possibility that the same level of corporate governance mechanism being in place in that company will not work as compared to other companies with lower market competition, right? System regulation is also another idea or another way of what can be added to corporate governance studies, right? My favorite one is the last one, country level institutional features. I'm a huge believer that country level institutional features can either complement or supplement the firm level corporate governance features. Um, there are a lot of studies in this that falls under the heading of legal framework, for example. So companies that falls in code law countries versus common law countries, they have different incentives, so they do behave differently even though they use the same corporate governance features. Other than that, political connection, if there are a lot of political connection in that country, it does affect the effectiveness of corporate governance features, even though they use the same features as what other countries are using. Investor protection, whether it is strong or not strong, it does have effect on the corporate governance effectiveness. So, for example, when we talk about whistleblowing, we do have whistleblowing mechanism that is in line with international setting, but whether it is effective or not, that is another question. Culture does play an area as well. Okay, so it is a part that can be expanded further in understanding corporate governance. So, in summary, with all these issues, in research on corporate governance or in policy formulation in relation to corporate governance, these are the things that could be think about in policy formulation as well. So we do adopt international standard. Yes, it's good to adopt international standard, but that has to be tailored or to be looked into in relation to the Malaysian setting as well, especially in country level institutional features and the economic, legal and cultural environment of a country. Okay. Right, so these are some of the diagrams which I took from some of the studies that I commonly use, right? So this from what which I have shown earlier is there are two things here. The first one is in using governance bundles. So in this study, it shows how corporate governance is not a sole mechanism. So you have to put them together. You have to look at it's not just merely whether board size is affect performance or not, but it's more of a few mechanism put together, provided as one proxy, then you can come about with suggestion on corporate governance effectiveness. Another element of this study is when they look at substitutability and complementary of governance mechanism. So, for example, there is when we have board characteristics and we have audit committee. So, does audit committee adds to the characteristics of the board, or does it supplement the characteristics of the board in improving performance of companies? So, those are what can be taken from this study. right? So another study by Notberg and Booth in 2019 talk about effectiveness of corporate boards. Okay, it does look at not only the board characteristics in terms of board demography, size, age, diversity, board structure, the knowledge and skill, but it also looks at some social characteristics. I think Dr. Zuraida has also mentioned about how earlier the characteristics of the CEO, whether they are good or bad. So some of these, the social capital, persuasiveness, okay, and the board process uh, on how it would affect their task performance and ultimately lead to firm performance. Okay, so this is a model adapted from a few studies, which is a good model to go forward with understanding board diversity as well as its effectiveness. And this is a diagram that looks at other features that can complement or supplement corporate governance mechanism. So as you can see here, the corporate governance mechanism is not just board of directors, okay, but it also comes from other uh, sources or pressures that can promote or demote the corporate governance mechanism to make it better or make it worse, right? So for example, some of this has been listed by Dr. Zuraida, but it has been drawn here in a framework by which you can see here that political environment, professional accounting bodies, regulatory bodies, and international environment are those that can influence the effectiveness of corporate governance. I would like to say that this is not the diagram that I look into. There is another diagram, but I cannot find that diagram, but it does come from Pereira framework. So I believe that this suffice. Okay, so and the last one is on country level institutional environment. So I often use this in my research. Typically, I do research by using country level factors as well as firm level factors to see whether they complement or supplement, right? So one of my co-author is previously from UiTM, Dr. Cairo, and Dr. Wan Adibah from UiTM Sungai Petani, UiTM Kedah, right? So we do have all these studies, and as you can see here, in terms of what I meant by institutional environment, it can comes from political stability, the voice and accountability, regulatory quality, control of corruption, rule of law, and government effectiveness. All of these data can be taken from the World Bank database and a few other databases that cover or the summarized index for country level governance as well as institutional environment, right? And some studies also look at national economic culture, right? So these are some of the examples here, and ultimately these affect corporate governance practices and affect firm performance, right? So to conclude, again, this is not really the whole thing that I envision this presentation to be, okay? But due to the short time that I have, so I will just quickly wrap up what suggestions for future research are. So for example, the first one is to assess effectiveness of corporate governance as a whole to understand what makes corporate governance effective, right? So look at board diversity as a whole and look at board effectiveness as a whole rather than one by one mechanism. Also consider the fact that there is an interplay between different mechanisms and whether they are supplementary or complementary. So for example, mechanism and mechanism, internal CG and external CG, firm level CG and country level institutional environment. So this X means the moderate effect that we usually use in models. So it explains for the same firm with the same level of corporate governance or the same features of corporate governance, the effectiveness of those would be explained or would be made better or would be affected by some other features that is not similar to other companies, right? And the third one is to use unique setting. So for example, comparative research is quite important as well to understand the different setting that could mold CG. So for example, culture, and to look at new provision in place. So lately with COVID-19, of course, there are many changes on how corporate governance has been applied. So you see earlier when we talk about virtual meeting, AGM, okay, which has been taken online, okay, virtually. So whether that kind of new provisions or new practices makes the CG better or not, okay, so that would be another area that can be considered for future research, right? So this is a summary from Brennan and Solomon, quite outdated, but then it does give you an overview of some of the key areas of frontiers of corporate governance research. So usually we do look at this kind of prior research, this earlier one, to see the originating of those ideas to go about with our current research in corporate governance. All right, so that's all from me. I think, have I exceeded the time? No.
Much to Associate Professor Dr. Akmalia for fruitful information on the topic, looking at another perspective on corporate governance. Right, now we come to the question and answer session. Right, I will start with the first question. Yeah, this question is addressed, I think, to both of the speakers. Yeah, okay. The question by Dr. Nurliza from UiTM Terengganu. Even with the corporate governance, we can see that many financial scandals like WorldCom, Anjuran, Waste Management, Tyco, Health South, Satyam, to name a few, all of them involve their founder or CEO and members of top management. Not to mention our 1MDB case, it involved the Top Gun. So, to what extent would the corporate governance actually play its role to curb corporate scandal? So, can we have the answer first from Professor Dr. Zuraida? What would be your response to the question, Dr. Zuraida?
Thank you, Dr. Noliza. When we mentioned about corporate scandals, okay, of course we have a proper, they keep on updating kan, the MCCG, they have all the section 17A just now, the internal control is already there. Yes, I mentioned just now lah. Yeah, when you mentioned previously, we have fraud triangle. Now you have more. Yeah, it's not only 3 reasons for them to commit, yeah, to involve with these corporate scandals and so on. So yes, we have all the mechanism lah, yeah, to combat all this. Not just on the corporate governance, the MCCG just now lah, yeah, when you mentioned about even Companies Act, as if you can refer to my slides, the last slides just now, they have a list of codes, yeah, like UK Code of Corporate Governance, Malaysian Code of Corporate Governance 2017, you have Sharia governance framework, right? You have also Companies Act 2016, lately this one confirmed with Malaysian Institute of Corporate Governance. We have ISA 240, yeah. There are so many ways actually to combat all this. But still, when you mention about people, that's why the first part is told at the top. The people, yeah, at those higher level. As Dr. Liza mentioned just now, these scandals normally by the CEO, by the top management, those we can see like they are beyond, yeah, the internal control. Yeah, they know how to manipulate. Okay, so that's why I believe that with section 17A though, yeah, section 17A, the latest one, okay, they can take action actually, okay, to the directors, yeah, for all those, and the penalties is quite yalah 1 million tu kan, quite huge lah, 1 million, and then how many years, 20 years and so on kan dia punya tu. So itulah, it's not easy, yeah, things happen. Maybe Dr. Kamalia can continue from there.
Yes, please, Dr.
Okay,
Akmal.
betul. I agree with Dr. Zuraida on two parts. The first one is on Companies Act. So in the Companies Act 2016, the role of directors, as including in relation to accounts and audit, has been made more, more, how do I say, more comprehensive lah. So the provision is more detailed, and then the failure to do so in terms of the offences is also huge and stated very well. For example, they are actually stated as having responsible to prepare financial statement. Okay, so it is stated that they need to prepare financial statement. Of course, they are not the one who needs to prepare financial statement, but one of those statements says that section 247, for example, the duties of the directors is to make sure that the accounting periods within the same group are aligned, and then details are provided in preparing financial statement. They shall prepare financial statement within 18 months from the date of incorporation and so on. And offences, for example, is fine not exceeding 500,000 ringgit, imprisonment for a term not exceeding 1 year or both. Okay, so there are quite, the MCCG has to be read together with Companies Act. Companies Act have more detail on directors' role in terms of accounting and audit. And also Section 17A, actually even for example UiTM, for example, if there is a company and that company falls as those that need to comply with Companies Act. So Section 17A applies to all directors, even small companies, but as long as you are a director, then you need to comply to Companies Act, to Section 70A, by which it provides greater responsibilities for the directors to make sure that the existence of strong internal control, okay, a lot of other provision as well, and they can be brought to charge. They can be brought to charge in any cases involving corporate scandals, and if they are, for example, if they are not, they are identified as not providing good internal control, and that's why the fraud happened, they can be considered as making an offence. Right. So that two provision, the Companies Act, the latest one, as well as Section 17A, as Dr. Zuraida mentioned, memang put more governance role to the board of directors in promoting better governance and reducing all these corporate issues. Yep.
Maybe I could also add, having said that, we're also looking into the individual kan. We talk about people, that's why we need to instill the good values too. Okay, you're talking about integrity, you're talking about the synergy, yeah, kalau UiTM lah, your responsibility kan. I think all these are the good values that if you are someone at the top, you must bring that. Okay, and then when you mention about the Islamic values again, you are mentioned about tauhid, you are mentioned about you are looking, when you serve, it's not just about you and the companies, you are talking about the hereafter. Okay, so that is another part of it lah. That's why my students, Dr. Rizwana, looking into Islamic perspective. We talk about governance. Yes, you have all this mechanism, but that is back to that person. If they have all the values, then I believe that we can curb this situation now. Okay, so back to whatever I mentioned again previously, why this thing happened, greedy, they still want, all this back to the personal interest. So if that person, they bring the good values, and I believe the values is not just when you are now at the age of 30 or 40, you should have that, the values you have instilled that since maybe from not just from primary school, from kindergarten, to appreciate the values, so that when you are at the top, you still have that values with you, and you are not just talking about the benefits you can gain here, but you're talking about the ultimate objective. So again, not everybody, maybe the futures, maybe again, as Dr. Akmalia mentioned, all the future research. Now maybe you can have that, whether these people, not just about the corporate people, the public sector, private sector, whether they really have put these values, nilai itu, as their everyday practice and so on lah, the belief and so on. It's more on belief system lah. Okay, Dr. Yunita.
Okay,
I jadi Ustazah Zuraida.
Alright, we'll change the title this afternoon. Yeah, alright. Okay, now thank you to both speakers. We are going to proceed with more questions. To the participants, feel free to post the question in the chat. Yeah. So while waiting for more questions to come, I do have questions. Yeah. My first question is to Dr. Zuraida. Yeah. In one of your slides, you relate your presentation with a digital world, which of course we are now facing the situation with pandemic and things are becoming more digitalized. Yeah? So my question is, how would you, or in your opinion, how will you, what we call, try to ensure good corporate governance will still be in place when we have this digital environment or digital business world? Yeah, Dr. Zuraida?
Dr. Yunita, patut tanya Dr. Akmalia lah kan.
Dr. Akmalia will be another question. But Dr. Akmalia can add on a bit later. I mean, if you have any opinion regarding that.
Tak apa. It's okay, Dr. Yunita. Again, when you mentioned about governance, governance in this IT, kan? That's why I urge everybody lah, looking into, if you can look into this, the latest one, blockchain and internet control, the COSO perspective. Okay, so they are also looking into the key stakeholders. Okay, I can share with you when you mentioned about of directors. Okay, so they have to see on the educational materials, kan? They have to update their knowledge, their skills. Okay, even the audit committee members, they mentioned here, they should build internal expertise, internal expertise on the board. So if we're talking about corporate, kan, kalau just nasi lemak, maybe just a simple training, kan, on the you want to share, you want to market your products, kan, and then you talk about the online banking. Quite simple, kan? But we talk about this corporate entity. So they look into board of directors, they look into audit committee members, even the executive, the CEO, CFO, controllers, the internal auditors, management. They have all this. They need to build internal expertise. They have to support discussion at the divisional, departmental level on the potential benefits and challenges of these items. Okay, so this is good, even though they are talking about blockchain, but I believe, as I mentioned just now earlier, even they are talking about blockchain, so actually you can apply this to the IT environment, digital economy and so on. Okay, so even when many years you are talking about this audit kan yang teknologi itu, IT audit and so on, but again now it's here. So they also mentioned that they have to look how this IT could give impact. Okay, to auditors, they need to know now how to audit transaction. Again, as I mentioned earlier, documents. When you mention about transaction beyond boundaries, kan, Malaysia, US. Where you can get the documents, how to tax them, more into tax, kan? So you need all this. So what about the auditors? What about the authorities? So they need to update their knowledge and also skills. Okay, so governance is about everything. It's not just about remember just now first part talk about governance. There's a practice, right? The process. Okay, my first slide. Kalau tengok kita ada rules, we have practices and also processes. So it should covers that. Okay, so to ensure that you know, okay, of rules of course keep on, yeah, they keep on updating the rules, kan? You can see per Companies Act 2016, you have the Section 17A, you have all this Code of Corporate Governance, whatever lah, the new latest updates, kan, and so on. So what about the practices? So when you mentioned about IT, digital economy, the way we the business, ya, orang kata daily business tu is already totally different from the conventional way of or traditional way of doing business. So now everybody, even we the lecturers, okay, previously we have that face to face. Yes, it's not easy actually to transform everything and to, you know, from the face to face, the physical activities to the computer based, now even to the online kind teaching and so on, ODL. But we just have to go through this. Okay, we have to learn and unlearn, right? You have to, you know, updates our skill. So same goes to those people at this corporate level, and everybody, the CEO, the the top management, executive directors, and so on. And then you mentioned about board of directors. Okay, board of directors, we believe that majority at certain age lah, kan? Maybe Dr. Kamalia can confirm that at what age actually when you mentioned about, but we can see that normally they are more than 45 lah, the board of directors. Okay, so these people, when you mention about age factors, so whether they can actually, yeah, equip themselves with all this, yeah, the new challenges, the new the new ways of doing business and so on. So corporate governance here, I remember when I mentioned earlier, you talk about rules, you talk about practices, you talk about processes. So you relate back to the internal control. You just have to update the internal control. If previously, okay, you have the documents, now you don't have the documents, so you need to rely on the system. Okay, so that is from me, Dr. Yunita.
Dr. Yunita, let me add to that because in nature of at the moment I'm also doing internal audit for UMT. So yeah, it is true what Dr. Zuraida said. Now the outcome is the document. So previously, in terms of auditing, you cast document to other documents and so on. But now we only have the final product and everything else in the system. Okay, so the original or the traditional way of doing casting is not applicable anymore. Okay, so it does requires not only a change in mindset, but also a lot of training in terms of understanding what is behind the system. So especially in terms of the strength of the internal control of the system, access to the system, security of the system. So of course the accounting education has to move forward with that as well, and we have seen that with effort by MIA and so on in Hala Tuju. Okay, and also to introduce more to our students about the fact that we need to go beyond the traditional accounting method, right? Yep. But honestly, I do have lack of resources that can do that. So probably they are not in the market yet or at the final stage of their degree and so on. So I do look forward to get more of those with the ability to audit on system. Right.
Alright, so I do hope that the students who are potentially very keen into the system may be in touch with Dr. Akmalia to proceed with the, I think it's a very high potential project, knowing that we are now in the digital world. So good luck to Dr. Akmalia. Alright, now just a little bit of continuation of the previous question by Dr. Noliza just now. Dr. Noliza said that so can we say that corporate scandals occurred is due to the board of directors does not play their role effectively? So do you agree to that statement, Dr. Akmalia first?
Okay, that is quite a controversial question. So not entirely, but not impossible. Answer. It's not really that they don't do their work effectively, but for example, understanding financial statement, it requires a lot of efforts for some in technical areas. They are very good in technical areas, but they might not be able to understand the financial statement, especially if they are, manipulated by others who know more about the financial statement. So they are blindsided. They probably can be blindsided if they don't have that particular knowledge by themselves. So that's why Section 17A and Companies Act stated where they do have to understand the accounts and audits, okay, for them to be able to play their role well. So in doing that, I think usually what company will do is they do have training, okay, before they have board directors on board. So now lots of companies have don't just take, they do have training on all these particular matters, providing information on Section 17A rather than giving the directors themselves to learn by themselves. So they do have all these orientation, okay, in line with the development of the current standard. But I think they have already understand the fact that their roles have increased, so they know that they have to learn and understand, because everything will goes back to the financial statement. So for example, when you talk about a project, when you talk about you need to approve a particular project, it does involve cost. It does involve getting quotation from suppliers, okay, which can be thousands and so on. So in order for you to sign off those agreement, you have to understand the financial behind that as well. Okay, so even though some people don't like financial statement, that is other people's part or so on. But for example, account is prepared by the accountants, but then the directors have the responsibility now to understand that as well. Okay, but I think the movement is going the right way, for them to understand that their roles is now being put more highlights on them now. Okay, so it's just a matter of they have to improve or to strengthen their knowledge on those areas that would require their decisions making.
Okay,
Okay.
any opinion or feedback from Dr. Zuraida?
Itulah Dr. Yunita, as I mentioned just now lah. You cannot, this is a blame game lah, yeah. When you have issue, you start to blame board of director. The board of director will then blame the top management. Okay, so that's why if you can refer to my slides number 9 just now, okay, you're talking about effective relationship there. Okay, you're talking about building trust and also earning respect. Okay, building trust and earning respect. That's why when you mention about of directors, we believe that sometimes maybe again I don't have the data. Dr. Kamalia, maybe you can look into this. Sometimes, but we have a little bit information. Certain people, let's say A, is the board director and members of company A, company B, company C, company D, so many, yeah. So we have that cases actually ada, yeah, we have that. So maybe they don't have enough time to really, discharge their duties lah, yeah. You mentioned about reports, you have to really dig, you have to really scrutinize. You don't have time if you have so many board members of many companies. So that is one thing. If you really take the job, you see these people, they should really do their job lah. They know what are their roles, their responsibilities. Okay, when things happen, actually all those people should take that responsibility. That's why when I mentioned about just now the values, okay, it's not just about integrity, it's not just about accountability, it's about responsibility. Responsibility means, yes, before things happen, you really have to check, you really have to discuss, you have a clear direction, clear purpose, okay, and that's why I also mentioned about continuous constructive engagement. So from there, each party, okay, even the shareholders, they should not just park their money, invest, but they should also monitor the business at least. And then if you have like town hall, you have all this engagement, they should at least work together. Yeah, they must you must know your roles, your responsibilities, open to criticism, people will critique and so on, open to that, because if things happen, Yeah, if anything happen, the bad things happen, you cannot blame someone else. You cannot just blame the board of director. It's actually the whole people that the whole organization should take the responsibility. So that is back to the values just now. Okay, accountable and also responsible. Okay, you are together into that. Yeah, whatever corporate scandals when you mentioned this now, yeah, things happen because of what? People just, take things for granted. Okay, I just trust you. Okay, but then trust, yes, is one thing, but the other one is you have to do your work. Okay, so itulah kata tak boleh. You cannot blame these people. You cannot blame these people. Things happen because must be through the system that's lacking here and there. So if everything is perfect, you can avoid that. If everybody know their roles, their responsibilities, then of course this won't happen. Okay, whatever business ke, yeah, even in any organization, if everybody know their roles, they really do their job, yeah, with same direction, towards the same direction, I believe this can, yeah, be avoided lah. Okay.
Betul, betul.
Okay, alright. Right, that's very interesting discussion, yeah, from both of the speakers. Now we come to the next question. Question from Taufik Sufian, yeah, to Dr. Akmalia. As the pandemic is still continuing, there is a concern on board of directors whether they play their role effectively in mitigating the fraudulent activities by the managers. Your comment? So please, Dr. Akmalia, we would love to listen to your comment on that.
Yep. Yep. I don't think there is a concern that their role will be not as effective as what they have done before. It can be probably more effective, okay, because everything with technology, everything can be done online. So basically, since last year, we have the board meeting almost every time online, okay, but I don't think it does make the effectiveness much lesser than doing that face to face. Yeah, the technology has actually enabled us. For example, before this, if we want to have a meeting, we have to wait time for everyone to be able to meet at some place. But now with technology, wherever you are, you can just join the board meeting. You can get the documents earlier. You can read them, and it does not affect in any way I have seen. Right.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Akmalia. Now we still have just a couple of minutes left. I have another question to Dr. Akmalia. Yeah. Alright, I'm very much interested in the board diversity that you mentioned just now. You highlighted just now, and you mentioned that we have more than 30% or more in terms of gender, which is from female. Yeah. So how do you perceive this as the effect on the corporate governance? Is it a good move, or in terms of improving corporate governance? It is not the issue of being a bias here because we are all women, but based on your findings maybe, yeah. So you may comment on that.
Basically this is taken from the SC report. So it's not my study, it's SC report. So I mean, around the world internationally, they also move towards having more women on board, right? So the cap given in Malaysia is 30%, right? And as shown in the statistics, 165 is a company now have 30% or more women directors on board. And in terms of young women, in terms of age, Dr. Zuraida, 41% of the women directors were below 50, and 11% were below 40 years old. Right, so there is a trend towards getting women, and there is a trend towards getting or appointing younger women directors. So in terms of the question is on how it is a good move towards towards corporate governance effectiveness. I'm not biased, even I do come from all girls school, but it's hard not to be biased. But with women does come with a lot of good package as well. So not saying that men is bad or not having good package, but it does come with a sense of meticulousness, okay, in doing things. So that's why the policy of having more women on boards, or 30% or more women on boards, is imposed by the government. So it's not something new. It's not something that is done only in Malaysia. Okay, Singapore has also been working on that. UK has also been working for that. It is an international movement of getting more women on board because of the identified benefits of having a diverse board in terms of proportion of women as compared to men. Right.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
But probably
Yeah,
it is
sorry.
lacking because when okay, when we do come to a certain age, we just want to pension and stay with the family, kan, jaga family. So it's not, probably it's a challenge of getting those, okay, but it is a good movement towards that.
Alright, Dr. Zuraida, maybe you want to just add one line of comment to that in terms of board diversity, female.
Okay, Dr. Yunita, the first thing I just want to add on whatever that has been mentioned by Dr. Kamalia just now, whether the board of directors, being affected, their roles and so on, is actually from my experience lah, real experience, during the first few months, we have that, we have an issue because we are talking about the rules, regulations, sometimes limit your discussion through online, because sometimes certain things are private and confidential. We're afraid of, if let's say you have a meeting through Zoom or through the WebEx and so on, you have someone else out there that can listen to all this PNC. Can you have that some sort like difficulties through from the few months before, let's say like March to September, the 6 months to that one, really it's a good it's a really I think a big challenge lah to us, but then slowly lah, things being, as they mentioned about new norms kan, I believe then we can use, even now the bad thing is we can have meetings up to whatever midnight and so on to discuss on certain things lah, because everything is online kan, and then we can have few meetings here and there during the same time and so on lah, so that one is on the effect roles of the management, I mean the board of directors. First part, yes, it's not that easy, but now I think people can adapt to that. Okay, when you mention about board diversity, I can see that yes, it should be. Okay, when you mentioned about board diversity, when you mentioned about ladies, the women, they will bring something different. Okay, maybe when you mentioned about these ladies, on like emotional kan, but then we are professional. Kan, we are professional. When you send someone at this level, board of directors, then board members, these are the professional people. Okay, so I believe that being given the opportunities and the trust given to them, I believe that they will deliver. It's not that saying that the men they are not, but we ladies, always want to be the best, but people will always say that we are not that good. So we have to prove that those people at the top, those people join the board members, they have to prove that they are good. So of course they are good, because it's not easy to appoint someone. So once you give them the trust, of course they will deliver, right? And I believe that these people, they are not easy kan to be at that level. So of course, if you talk about those young people, Gen X, not Gen X, Gen Y, kita X lah, Gen Y. So like Dr. Akmalia mentioned, 11% kan, those young ladies and so on. When we say that, oh, you lack of experience, I don't want to listen to you. The more you say that, these people, they will take the challenge. They will prove that they can deliver, they can do better than you. So I believe that when you mention about board diversity, different skill set, different experience, different knowledge level and so on, that could bring a good, I think, values to the added values to the corporate level, to the companies and so on. Okay, Dr. Yunita.
Okay, I think we come to before we end the session. There's another short question. I think I will address this question to Dr. Akmalia again. The question from Amirul Hafiz, is there any study on universities' subsidiary company board of director effectiveness?
Interesting. There is a laporan kajian by audit negara, okay, on investment, universities investment. So 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Alright. And then it does look at not really on BOD's effectiveness, but on the performance of the subsidiaries, right? So they tabulate the number of subsidiaries the university has, the profit that those subsidiaries are making, how much are paid to the university as dividend, and a few more on the composition of the board and so on. So there is laporan audit negara, and resulting from that, they do ask universities to look into their investment more prudently. Okay, so from laporan audit negara, it does given back to university to take action, as well as what they do with other government agencies as well. Okay, so but in answering your question directly on board effectiveness, not by one institution, but perhaps if you go and interview the universities, they do look at their effectiveness of subsidiaries, perhaps as part of their risk management or as part of their audit, internal audit exercise, and so on. But not from, I know one that look at all universities as a whole, except that laporan audit negara 2018.
Okay, thank you.
That is publicly available, so you can search on that. Yep.
Alright, thank you, Associate Professor Dr. Akmalia. So to all participants and to our speakers also, we are now approaching the end of our webinar session. I would like to take this opportunity to thank both of our speakers, Associate Professor Dr. Zuraida and Associate Professor Dr. Akmalia, for sharing their thoughts on our topic, webinar topic for today, that is governance and accounting. And of course, thank you to all participants for patiently being with us till the end of the session. Hope that you have gained knowledge on the latest issues on corporate governance. On behalf of the organizer, I would like to apologize for any shortcomings throughout this webinar session. So thanks again to the speakers and to the participants. Let's end the session with Tasbih Kafarah and Suratul As. Okay. For the attendance, the link is given in the chat. So please fill in the G form accordingly. So till we meet again, take care and stay safe. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
tunggu dulu kot nah.
Thank you.